All right, here we are. Welcome to the HawgBeat Hoops postgame show. I am Jackson Collier, JC Hoops, along with Riley McFerrin, managing editor over at HawgBeat.com. What a game! Wow, Arkansas started strong. A little bit slow out the gate. Kind of pushed the lead. They were up 10, up 13 or so in the first half. Pushed it to 20, and then collapsed. Absolute collapse. Initial thoughts, Riley?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, collapse, right? I mean, up 20. I think at one point they had allowed a 19-2 run. It may have ended up being worse than that, but I know for sure it was 19-2. I mean, just not good. That first half, things started, they looked pretty good, right? Coming into this game, you wanted to see the offense look a little bit smoother, faster pace, right? I mean, Musselman, talked about that in his preview press conference earlier this week. He even changed the lineup, right, to adjust for that. But in that second half, they got up 20, they got complacent, didn't have that killer instinct, and Lipscomb came back, gave them a fight. I mean, Arkansas ended up winning, right? And a win is a win, but coming into this game after an ugly Oklahoma loss, yeah, they only lost by 9 in that game, but let's be honest, it was probably worse than the outcome really showed. They needed a big win here, probably a double-digit win, and they didn't get it. They had the chance to, didn't finish the right way, and now they're kind of in the home stretch of non-conference play before SEC play gets started, and things aren't looking great. It's a little bit sketchy right now, Jackson.
Yeah, no, and I'll just go back to what I've been saying for weeks now, and it's the fact that, okay, I guess I'll preface it. The defense did look better today, but it still wasn't great. Um, Lipscomb missed a lot of wide open shots. They just did. Arkansas still had the same issue with defending screens. They gave up a lot of wide open threes. Again, Lipscomb missed a ton of wide open looks. Some of them were bad shots. Just Lipscomb decided to take contested threes. So, I mean, that's on them too. Arkansas did well contesting some shots, but they gave up so many wide open looks. Almost got out rebounded by Lipscomb. I think Arkansas won the rebounding battle by one.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas won the rebounding battle by one rebound. Got out rebounded on the offensive glass. Lipscomb had 12 offensive rebounds. Arkansas had 8. Arkansas didn't get to the free throw line that they wanted to. I thought, we talked to Musselman this week in his presser. We heard Jalen Graham talk about, we implemented a 0.5 rule. We're going to move the ball a lot more. Early on, the ball moved better, went stagnant as soon as they went zone. As soon as Lipscomb went zone, there was a lot more standing around. They would get the ball to the middle, but then it would be bad pass, bad turnover, bad whatever. It's like they didn't know how to face a zone. And then that's kind of been an issue over the past few years as well, as Arkansas playing against zone defenses. The offense as a whole, I'm not going to say like, I'm so concerned about the offense, even though they only scored 69 points. Some of that, they didn't get to the line like they normally do. They only shot 9 free throws, I think. They normally shoot 28. And so if you're getting that many opportunities and you remove like your biggest area of scoring, you still put up almost 70 points. I'm not so concerned about the offense. Defense looked great for long stretches. They were playing really solid. They were rotating right. But again, the open shots were a concern because a better team hits those open shots. And then just the absolute collapse to be able to go 6 minutes just scoring 2 points and allowing Lipscomb to score 19. You just can't have that. You really can't.
No, I mean, I completely agree. And, it'd be different if Lipscomb was, a great non-conference team, but they're not. They came into this game 7-5 overall, right? And I know there's kind of a curse in Little Rock when Arkansas plays there. I mean, we all saw what happened before the game even started. The lights weren't really working, and so they had a little bit of a delay. That's kind of unusual. But you need to perform better here. And kind of talking about the free throw attempts, they actually shot 8. And according to HawgStats on Twitter, those 8 free throw attempts were the fewest since taking 7 versus Georgia in 2022. So, and this team specifically has been pretty good at getting to the free throw line so far this year. And I think a big part of that has been Caleb Battle, who, didn't have a very good game today. I think in the first half, he only shot one attempt the entire time, which is pretty unusual for him. He usually gets his, right? He's a scorer first. Some of that probably had to do with the rotation mix-up from Eric Musselman. And I mean, one big key addition to today's game for Arkansas was guard Keon Minifield, right? He was a guy coming from Washington that averaged 10 points a game, was more, not necessarily a true point guard, but had more of that role and was coming into Arkansas to kind of play that role. He was one of the better, or he had one of the better assist to turnover ratios for a freshman in the Pac-12. And he didn't light it up today. He only got 2 points. You're not really expecting him to come in and have a big game right away. This is a great opportunity for him to get acclimated before SEC play. But just as a whole, kind of like what you were saying, you wanted more from Arkansas today. They looked good for stretches of time. Pretty good for stretches of time. And then, let's be honest, they choked it away. Fortunately, they came out with the win at the very end, which they needed to. If they had lost today, then things would have started getting pretty nasty, right? Because coming in, you needed a big, like I said earlier, double-digit win for purposes in the net rankings, right? And I know it's still mid-December. You don't want to start worrying about that stuff too early, but a loss here would have really hurt their chances. They won, and so going forward, they're going to have to fix a lot of issues if they want to succeed in SEC play.
I'll respond to that, and then I'm going to answer a question from Justin after that. But I think it is time to start worrying about the net for Arkansas, because today was the first time this season they jumped in the top 100 in the net. And and it's not just the net. You have strength of schedule, strength of record. You have Ken Palm. You have the ESPN BPI. You have all these different metrics, and Arkansas is not good in any of them. And those measure different things. Each one of them measures a different thing. Net, it's talking about the quads, but it's not just the quads. It's margin of victory. It's competition level of the opponent, which falls into quads. It's the efficiency ranking, all that sort of stuff. Arkansas is okay in Ken Palm and is pretty bad in the net in terms of making the NCAA tournament. And yes, it's early, all that sort of stuff. But the issue is they had 3 games to finish out non-conference to really push those numbers as high as possible before going into really tough competition in conference play. And it looks like they were going to be able to do that. They were up 20. They were holding teams to very few points, or holding Lipscomb to very few points, low percentage, all that sort of stuff. And they were scoring well. Arkansas was scoring well. What happens when you let a team come back like this? And the defensive efficiency rating that goes in the net and that goes in the Ken Palm will probably take a little bit of a hit from the first half to the second half, but not as drastic as the offensive hit, because they just went completely silent offensively for the entire second half. On top of that, you have the fact that I don't even know how much Arkansas is favored by. It depends on each, you have the bookies, but also each individual analytics site has the margin that's expected. You have anticipated margin of outcome. And if you match or go above that, that's great for your efficiency rankings. I'm sure that Arkansas was expected to win on almost everywhere by more than 3 points. So that's another reason that it's a hit. And so you have all these factors that are going into this game. Yes, even though it's a win, even though it's December, that's one less game now that they have to bolster their resume with their metrics and all that sort of stuff before going into conference play. And Justin said, why does the defense overhelp? This hasn't just started happening. It's been apparent, but this year it's crazy apparent on TV. I don't have a good answer for that, but I have been super frustrated with it too, because you'll see guys when they're playing the screens, either you have a rare instance where the hedge and recover is correct, and the guy on the wing who's supposed to be one pass away and guarding his man, he'll dive down or dig down in the paint trying to get a cheap steal when he doesn't have to. The ball's already covered. So that's an overhelp situation, kind of, and it leaves an open 3. Sometimes you'll have a wing driver on the baseline, and it seems like the defensive plan this year has been to allow baseline drives, and the help comes over from the paint over to the baseline. I don't know why that's the logic this year or the game plan this year, but almost every time it allows for an opposite pass to the corner 3 or an open layup. So, Justin, I have no idea why it's happening, other than the fact that I think it is bad defense. I think it is it might even be just guys not understanding how to play. Look, Musselman has said multiple times they don't go live, they don't go live, they don't go live in practice, all this sort of stuff. Personally, my thing or my opinion is that going live can fix these sort of issues because some players just learn better going live than doing stuff in a shell constantly. And I talked to probably 8+ different college coaches from around the country, just asking them, hey, in your program, do you guys go live? And 100% of those coaches, and it's a small sample size, just 8 of them, but 100% of them said, yes, we go live. And about 5 or 6 of them said, oh, we go live almost 80+% of our time in practice. So I don't know if there's anything to that. That's kind of my opinion, my thought process. I don't know. That could be a reason for it, is just players not knowing how to react to defense in live game situations if they're learning shell so much.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly interject an interesting stat that's not defense related. According to HawgStats.com, Mekhi Mitchell led Arkansas in scoring in the second half today with 6 points. And, I mean, look, Mekhi Mitchell, like every now and again, he'll pop off and have that one game where he looks really good. But him being your leading scorer in the second half is not really ideal if you're Arkansas. I mean, Arkansas as a team was outscored 33-28 in the second half. So not great. And that's after outscoring Lipscomb 41-33 in the first half. So they looked pretty good in the first half. And then things just, fell apart like we talked about. But kind of getting back to that defense, I've kind of harped on that after every postgame show. The defense has just not been up to par for a Musselman team. I mean, today they gave up 13 second chance points. Arkansas only got 6, right? They gave up 32 paint points, which again, it's not, it's not great. And especially when you're about to head into, tougher conference play, that's kind of a bad sign. But I will say, in terms of the paint, and kind of going towards the more positive, Jalen Graham looked really good today. And that's 2 games in a row, or maybe a few games in a row now, that he's looked really good. I mean, we all know that he can, get some buckets on offense. And I mean, he took over for portions of today's game. I think, looking at the box score here, he finished with, he finished 5 of 6 from the field, which, like I said, he can take over. He's really efficient for 11 points. Him and Mekhi Mitchell were really good today. Mekhi had 12 himself. He was perfect from the field today. He was 6 of 6, had 5 rebounds. So, those 2 big men being able to drop double-digit points in a game is big, especially when, a guy like Trevor Brazil, who, is still kind of working back from that injury that he had. I think it was an ankle injury. Having those 2 guys coming in to kind of, relieve him is big. But I mean, you're going to need more from a guy like Caleb Battle, who he had under 11 minutes today. L. Ellis, that's a guy we haven't talked about yet. He's kind of getting backseat treatment with Keon Minifield back and some of the other guards playing better right now. He had under a minute in this game. That's a dude who, coming into the season, you thought was going to be one of the leaders, right? A point guard was going to, distribute the ball to everybody and make things go. And he just hasn't really been that so far, been pretty inconsistent. So, I've talked about it multiple times already, but this Arkansas team has a lot of things to fix, not a lot of time to fix them. I'm not really sure where Eric Musselman goes from here. So it's going to be pretty interesting.
Another interesting little tidbit. Arkansas starters combined for 23 points today.
Whew. That starting lineup was
Jeremiah Davenport led starters with 9 points on 3 of 10 from the field. Then you had Chandler Lawson with 4 points. You had Devo Davis with 4 points, and Trevor Brazil with 6 points. And I guess a lot of that is just because you had a trio off the bench that went off with Graham, Mekhi, and Tremont Mark. But you really need more out of your starters, especially against Lipscomb. I don't know. That's the thing that's so frustrating to me, is the fact that there are only 2 games until conference play. And Arkansas just nearly got out-rebounded, did get out-rebounded on the offensive glass, allowed more second-chance points than they themselves had, when Lipscomb has not been a good offensive rebounding team all season. And your veteran guys, your starters, and especially Devo and Brazil, they kind of didn't do anything for you. I mean, Devo, you look at his box score, 4 points, 3 assists. He had 4 turnovers. Trevor Brazil, 6.6 rebounds, but that's not what Arkansas needs out of him when he's been the 14 and 10 double-double machine. He took 1 3 and missed it. So it wasn't that's not what Arkansas needs. Arkansas needs much more from its starters, from its veterans, and it just needs a lot more in general.
Yeah, I mean, to be totally fair, the starting lineup coming into today was a new one, right? I mean, it was pretty weird. Joseph Pinion got the start, right? And he hasn't really played that much, and he didn't play that much today. And he's a 3-point shooter, right? But he still didn't play. And I think a part of that is because of a lack of defense, which Arkansas as a team has struggled with. But I mean, yeah, like Arkansas, I don't want to keep going over the same thing, but they just didn't look great. You needed to look better. And looking at a question from Justin Bailey here, he says, "Why did Battle's minutes get cut? I understand why Ellis lost minutes, but I'd assume Battle is going to be a guy for most of the year." And I would agree with you. Battle is a dude. He's shown that he's a dude. I mean, he scored. He's the leading scorer for Arkansas right now. He's had multiple 20-plus point games. I'm honestly not really sure why he kind of took a backseat. I know in the last game against Oklahoma, or I think maybe it was Furman that I'm thinking of, he didn't have a great game. He was pretty inefficient, missed a lot of shots. Maybe that has something to do with it, just mixing it up a little bit. But I mean, still, he's the dude on the team. Thankfully, Tremont Mark had a huge game, came up. I think he scored 9 straight by himself, all in 3-pointers. He's been kind of coming to the year, he wasn't the best 3-point shooter. He was solid, but he's been very good so far. I think he's shooting 40% plus from beyond the arc right now, which is amazing. Like if he can keep that kind of pace up, like you're loving that if you're Eric Musselman in Arkansas. But I mean, going into conference play, you need to fix your defense. It's not great, especially hustling back. It's just not what you want if you're Eric Musselman. And then on offense, you need to continue to be more smooth, right? You need to acclimate Keon Menifield in. I think ideally, I know the staff. I think you've said this before, but the staff really likes Keon Menifield in that role, in that point guard role. Ideally, you probably want him being that guy, and that could be huge going down the stretch. Long term, right? He didn't look great tonight. He did have 3 rebounds, and he's a smaller dude, so that's pretty intriguing. I think long term, he could be a dude that leads the team for you, but right now, not looking great.
Well, and answering Justin's question too, like I think the reason for it was there was a sequence in the first half where Battle went 1-on-3 on a fast break and kind of forced up an ill-advised shot. Didn't go down, obviously, and then I think he turned it over the next possession and got beat on defense or fouled the next possession or something. So it was a bad sequence, and I think he sat.
That'll get you taken out.
Yeah, and I think this game in particular, we've seen it in the past with Muss, but I think this game in particular, there was a lot of like impulsive subbing. Like one slip up, one mess up, and you're out of the game. You're on the bench, whatever. I think we saw a lot of that tonight, which I don't know if we've seen that that much this season compared to like last season and the year before, but it seemed like guys were getting yanked quick tonight, and I think that was part of going into the same or the message that he was saying he was going to send after the Oklahoma game. Yeah, no, I'm not even saying I agree with the idea of it. I would have let Battle try to play through some of that. Like, you can pull him over when there's a dead ball or a free throw and say, hey, we don't need to go 1-on-4. You don't need to sit him just because he does that and misses or turns it over or misses on defense or whatever. I think he's a guy you have to play 20 plus minutes, especially when this offense does go stagnant like it does sometimes. They went 6 minutes and scored 2 points. There's no way in no world should Caleb Battle not be on the floor if you score 2 minutes or 2 points in 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like I said before, he's your go-to scorer. He's proven that so far. I mean, it's so weird, right? They went 6-ish minutes without scoring very much. And it wasn't long ago that we were watching this team beat one of the most talented squads in the country in Duke. Like it wasn't that long ago, and they beat Purdue in the preseason, who just notched a win over #1 Arizona today. You really, if you're Arkansas, you really wish that win counted. So this team has a high ceiling if everything is coming together and working perfectly, like the right way, which it can be. It's a long season. Eric Musselman has shown before, maybe not every year. I know a lot of people will say this, that, Eric Musselman teams start slow and then finish strong. That doesn't happen all the time, but he has proven that he can make a team do that. And so whenever you have so many experienced pieces on a team like this, the hope is that, through the course of the year, they can gel together and then finish strong. But you're going to need more, and you're going to need more quickly. Something I kind of very quickly want to touch on is the technical foul that Arkansas had today. That's another technical foul. Fortunately for Arkansas, it was offsetting, this time from Devo. So, and I know that sometimes teams are, or a lot of the times teams are a reflection of their head coach. Eric Musselman is a fiery guy. And so, you're probably going to see a more fiery team. But I feel like, man, technical fouls this year have kind of ramped up a bit. I mean, it's getting kind of out of hand at this point, Jackson.
Well, I mean, you're even seeing it on the broadcast. You're seeing other media members tweet about it on Twitter as well, and I agree. Like, you can't be so emotional, so reactionary on the court. Like, you just can't. Like, it's one thing to be aggressive. It's one thing to stick up for your teammates, stick up for your boy, whatever. But you got to be smart about it. You got to pick and choose when you do it and how you do it. You can't just come bull rushing in and then start bumping chests, shoving people, all that sort of stuff. You got to play the game within the game. And this team is not good at doing that at all. They are overly emotional at times when that stuff happens. And it's not like they're like, oh, they're so emotional on the court and all aspects of the game. It's like, no, it just seems like they're just too emotional in instances where, like, there's a little bit of a shove, or like, oh, they're going to take it over the top. It's a little much.
No, I mean, definitely. And again, like I've said before, this is a team that has a lot of experienced guys. So you wouldn't really think that would happen very much. You've got Devo, who's been here for, multiple years. Tremont Mark has been around for a while. Caleb Battle. I can go on. Makai Mitchell. Today, Makai Mitchell, we saw in replay, he was tripped up, so I can kind of understand why he was annoyed. But Devo, you want more from Devo. He's a leader of this team. We all saw what he did against Kansas in the Sweet 16 last year. Like, he is capable of being the guy when everything is clicking. Maybe not on a consistent basis, right? And you probably don't want that on a consistent basis. But, what did he have today? I think we talked about it earlier. He only had 4 points, 2 of 2 from the field, so he was at least, efficient. 3 rebounds, but he had 4 turnovers. And I think, so we've talked about it a lot, or fans have talked about it a lot, but putting Devo in the point guard position is not really the ideal way to go about things if you're Arkansas, especially when you added a guy like El Ellis in the offseason, when you added a guy like Keon Menafield, who, hasn't gotten to play yet very much. Layden Blocker has looked even pretty solid in his point guard time. He's just a freshman, right? He's young. So, kind of forcing Devo into that lead man spot when he's probably better in the off guard, kind of doing his own thing, getting buckets and just focusing on scoring, hitting that mid-range shot, pushing him into that point guard spot. I know he started the year off really well in terms of assist to turnover ratio, but, lately he's not done so hot. And he had 4 turnovers today, 3 assists, right? So not great there. You're going to need more out of him going forward if this team wants to reach its ceiling. And he really hasn't been a great defender either. He's kind of known as a really good defender, right? He's kind of earned that reputation, but he's I don't know, he's taken a step back this season. Let's just say that. And so, I guess heading into conference play, they have a couple more games. Jackson, just as a general whole, what does Arkansas need to fix heading into SEC play? I think they play Auburn in the first game. I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, they play Auburn in the first game of conference play. They need to fix a whole hell of a lot is what they need to fix. I guess if we're going to go down and make a list of most important things, in my opinion, what they need to fix, it is getting the rotation down, getting your core 8. You need to find the guys you're
Mhm.
running with. This whole uh, line change, playing 12 in the first 5 minutes, and nobody knowing their role. You need to establish the roles that people are going to play and play those roles. You can have situational guys too, as 9-10, or you can have foul trouble, but just playing guys just to play them. I mean, you got to let Caleb play through his struggle sometimes. You got to let L. Ellis play through when he gets down on himself or stuff like that. Like, you can't just play 12 people just to play 12 people. And that's been a strength for Musselman. That's what so many people thought was a breath of fresh air for Musselman compared to Mike Anderson. Mike Anderson was just throwing 10, 11 guys out there and playing 90s basketball like, oh, we're going to run you to death. It's not how it works anymore. Musselman has never done that, but he's been doing that this year quite a bit for some reason. I still don't understand why. You need to set those roles and need to lock them in and make sure those players know their roles, they're comfortable in them, and just move them forward. Outside of that, the basketball part of things, figure out how you're defending screens. No, it doesn't look like anybody on the team knows how they're supposed to be defending the screens. Some people want to go over, some people want to go under. The hedge is there. Sometimes it takes too long for the guard to get over, fight through the screen. I don't know if that's because the post isn't calling out there's a screen coming. He's just not aware of it. If the guards aren't being taught how to fight through screens, or if they don't know that you can go under a screen on a drive, it's it's a big mess. It's just a really, really big mess. And on top of that, kind of an ancillary point to the screen defense is that your help side defense, if you're working on shell so much, your team should be well versed in what it means to be one pass away, two pass away, cross court, like being in your spots and playing those spots, but they aren't right now. And that's what Justin brought up earlier. Like, if you're one pass away, that means you're one pass away. You're not over helping to try to stop ball. You're playing one pass away. You're two passes away. It's very basic basketball. Ball, me, man, triangle. Keep your offhand in between the passing lane. Say where you can see your man, see the ball. And this team is not doing that. They get turned around. Their back is facing the ball. Their back is facing their guy sometimes, and they let a back cut go right behind them without even knowing. Or it's just standard drive, and they don't. Or they either overhelp or it's a straight line drive regardless. So the screening defense basketball part absolutely has to be figured out. I don't know if this team is going to be able to fix rebounding. They haven't been a good rebounding team. They're kind of small. They don't really have, outside of Mekhi Mitchell, they don't have a true big, not that will go up against anybody in the SEC. So you might have to just live with not rebounding well. But if you're going to live with not rebounding well, then you better be scoring the ball and stopping the ball in the perimeter. Perimeter defense has been bad too, and that's different from the screen defense. That's just letting guys drive right by you. So you need to fix that as well. And ball movement on offense got a little bit better in the first half today, then stagnated in the second half. You got to keep the ball moving. You have two talented of offensive players on this team for it to stagnate, to go ISO, because ISO is just not – in the college game, it is just not efficient because college players are not good enough to go ISO and score. They're not Joe Johnson out there, ISO Joe. They're not LeBron James, Kevin Durant going out there and going ISO and being able to score at a high clip. Arkansas runs more ISO than 90% of teams in the NCAA, and they average like 0.8 points per possession. Like, you're not even getting a point per possession on running ISO, and it's not good. So those are my things.
Yeah, I mean, kind of working off what you just said, it does seem like, Musselman is a former NBA head coach, right? So you're not surprised that he uses NBA, style schemes in his offense, but we're not playing NBA basketball, right? We're playing college basketball. And, especially when you don't have a true, like, this is your point guard, right? Like, he controls the offense, he makes things go. That is going to make your offense look a lot worse when you're running a more NBA style scheme. And especially when, he likes to push the pace. I know he talked about that earlier in the week, and Arkansas has struggled, pretty badly in that area. However, Arkansas's next game is against Abilene Christian, who has lost, looking at their schedule, has lost 4 out of their last 5. So, that's a get right game. This is an opportunity against a inferior opponent at home. Actually, at home, I know Little Rock, they classify it as a home game for whatever reason. It probably shouldn't be, especially when the lights don't work heading into the matchup. probably should be a neutral court matchup. You actually get a real home game now. I will say though, Little Rock had a pretty good or a good turnout. I think they had well over 15,000 people
I
at
think
the
it was
game, which is
officially sold
awesome.
out.
Okay, well there you go.
I
So
think
Little
they
Rock,
announced that.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's good. Fans, they show up, right? And that's good for the Hogs. But you actually get to play in your home court in Fayetteville against a greatly inferior opponent. You need to take advantage of that. You need to win this game by, hey, I mean, if you could get a 20 point win, you're feeling pretty good about that. But right now,
No,
with
they
the way
absolutely
things,
need to win by 20 plus against Abilene Christian. They really need the resume boost, the metrics boost. And I know plenty of people still probably coming for me on social media, on Twitter, for saying, oh, this hurts the metrics. It's only December. We're 2 games away from
yeah,
conference play, and metrics are really, really bad right now. They need to figure their stuff out. Like they need to get that up.
yeah, I know you were saying going into the Oklahoma matchup that it was a must-win game, and I know a lot of people were kind of piling on you, roasting you on social media, on Twitter specifically. But I mean, I agree in the sense that that game was a huge opportunity to increase your net ranking to help that resume, and like long term with the way this team is looking, you needed to get that win because you're not too sure how they're going to look in conference play, right? You need
Well,
to
and the
up
reason
that
I
non-conference
classified it
resume.
as the reason I classified it as a must-win game is because, in my evaluation of the team to date, I was afraid of something like this happening, having letdowns in the 3 must-win, easy non-conference matchups remaining. So far, through one of those 3, they had a really big letdown. They did not get accomplished what they needed to accomplish. And there's plenty of people who would say, "Oh, they got the win. That's all that matters." And that's fine. That's a great philosophy to have. But if the goal is to make the NCAA tournament, Arkansas is sitting at 7-4 with terrible metrics that go into deciding whether they make the NCAA tournament or not. That's just the reality of the situation.
Mhm. Yeah, and actually DK94 here had an interesting comment. He said Abilene Christian is just outside. I don't know where these stats are coming from. I'm going to trust you, DK94. I don't think you would lie to me. Abilene Christian is just outside the top 100 in tempo. Arkansas is 29th. So, like I said, this is a great opportunity to push that pace, to score a lot, right? I mean, this is a team, like you said earlier, and I think it's been kind of the most surprising thing. I expected this team to score at will, honestly. I mean, you had Caleb Battle, who has scored everywhere he's been. Tremont Mark, didn't score a ton at Houston, but he's shown the ability to do so, and he has done so up to this point. I really thought Trevor Brazil would maybe have a more well-rounded game. He's kind of been more of a perimeter guy. Every now and again, he'll drive in, but he just doesn't look super confident in doing so. So, I'd like more from him. Jalen Graham has been coming along. Maybe this team will start clicking more offensively now with him back, and Keon Minifield too. But I think, there's a lot to be seen. Arkansas has a great opportunity. I think it's the 21st is when they play Abilene Christian. So great opportunity to showcase some improvement there. I guess, as a whole, Jackson, we've kind of covered this game. If you have any closing thoughts that you want to get off your chest, now's a perfect time.
I got nothing else. I've said what I need to say. As always, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thanks for all the questions. We love whenever y'all ask us stuff. It makes us feel a lot better. It makes us feel more productive a little bit too. But no, appreciate y'all. We'll be doing this every game throughout the rest of the season, as we say every night. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
And be sure to subscribe to HawgBeat.com. It's Arkansas Rivals. We've got a lot of football transfer portal content going on. Arkansas has been hosting a ton of prospects this week. They've got some visitors actually today and this weekend. Next week should be fun. We should have a lot of commitments on or coming in. If you subscribe to the Trough, which is our premium message board, you would know who some of those guys are, because my man here, Jackson Collier, has been dropping a bunch of huge tidbits on potential commits. So be sure to subscribe. You're going to get a lot of good info. And like you said, we're going to be doing this show after every game. So please subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. And